Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Hey, this is great, man.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Welcome back, everybody. It's 4:02 here in the Pacific Time Zone. I'm Radical Russ Belville, your guide through what we call Toker Talk Radio, a look at the day's news, interviews, videos, jokes, comedy, music, whatever it is we feel like talking about. We're toking, we're talking. That's what it's all about. Our phone line is right there, 971-533-7111. If you got a comment, a question, a suggestion, a topic, anything you'd like us to explore, we can figure it out for you here at Toker Talk Radio. So glad to have you here on this fantastic week. Today, of course, is Cinco de Mayo. Today, of course, is Cinco de Mayo, where Americans celebrate taking liquid drugs with a Spanish flair. See also St. Patrick's Day, Super Bowl Sunday, New Year's Eve, Memorial Day, all sorts of days that we celebrate taking liquid drugs. We love liquid drugs in this country. My God, you can't go anywhere without seeing establishments dedicated to liquid drugs. We even have movies that celebrate overdoses on liquid drugs. It's a trilogy now. Liquid drugs are great. Liquid drugs sponsor our sporting events. Liquid drugs sponsor them all the way down to the youth level sometimes. Liquid drugs are great. We love liquid drugs in America. Liquid drugs are awesome. Liquid drugs are a perfectly responsible way to relax and unwind because, of course, people who do liquid drugs don't do them to get high. No, people that do liquid drugs do them to be social. That's what liquid drugs are all about. Liquid drugs are all about being social, not getting high. It's so simple. It's really quite easy to understand that liquid drugs are awesome. We have holidays dedicated to liquid drugs. On the St. Patrick's Day, we like to color our liquid drugs green. That's really cool. We color the liquid drugs green, to celebrate the Irish, who have been celebrated, rightly or wrongly, for their love of liquid drugs. It's kind of a reciprocal pattern there, isn't it? Cinco de Mayo, of course, is not Mexican Independence Day. It represents a battle of the Mexican army over Pancho Villa over the Mexican army. I forget which, but it's not Independence Day or anything. But in America, come on, what the cultural holiday here is tequila. Liquid drugs. We love our liquid drugs. We have places in America, not every county. There's some counties that don't allow them. But just about every county in America, you can find a place that is a dispensary for liquid drugs that allows consumption of liquid drugs on site at the dispensary. It's amazing. It's amazing. You can drive your car there. Get this. You can drive your car to the dispensary, park it there. No one takes your keys or anything. You're allowed to keep your keys. Park your car at the dispensary. You can go in and you can purchase as much liquid drugs of whatever legal potency you like. And so long as you don't outwardly demonstrate any sort of intoxication, you're allowed to leave and get in your car and drive home from the dispensary, chock full of liquid drugs. On your way home, you can stop by a store, and depending on what state you're in, you can stop at the grocery store, or maybe it has to be a special liquor store, but you can stop at these stores and buy more liquid drugs. All the liquid drugs you like. No, there's no registry. No, there's no registry. There's no registry, and there's no limit, right? It's not like 10 grams a week or, an ounce a month or something. No, you can have as much liquid drugs as you like. Don't you understand? Liquid drugs are awesome. You can have as much as you like. You can go to like warehouse places. You can buy kegs. You can buy full barrels of liquid drugs. You can buy case upon case upon case on pallets loaded by forklifts, if you like, of any variety of liquid drugs you like, any strain you like, of whatever potency you like, so long as it's legal under your state laws. And all but the most potent are legal under almost every state's laws. And you can store them at your house. And get this, folks. You can invite people to your house, right? And as long as they're adults, they got to be 21. Although in some states, as a parent, you can let minors take these liquid drugs. And traces of these liquid drugs can be found in a lot of cough remedies and other over-the-counter preparations. But that aside, you can invite adults to your home, and you can prepare and dispense liquid drugs to them. No, you don't have to get like a card or a license or anything. You don't have to be tested or anything. You don't have to be able to identify whether your guests have had too many liquid drugs and aren't prepared to be able to drive or anything. No, there's no licensing requirement or anything or testing. You can just bring people to your house, serve them liquid drugs, and so long as they don't wreck into anyone on their way home, you're pretty much scot-free. Liquid drugs are awesome. It's those flowers we've got to ban. Because they never killed anyone. Makes perfect sense, right?
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out lushledlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. You can get 420 Radio on the go with the TuneIn Radio app for all mobile platforms. Go to rad-r.us/420tunein or just click the TuneIn Radio icon below the live radio feed on 420radio.org. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember NCC420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. Welcome back, everyone. 11 after the hour. That's Dixie Witch with their cover of Lynyrd Skynyrd's On the Hunt. God, I love Skynyrd. I was a bar band musician for a long, long time, so I always had to play like the standard bar band cover Skynyrd songs. You know, Give Me 3 Steps and Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird. And they're great songs. Nothing wrong with those songs. But man, after about the 15,000th time you've played them. So when you hear like On the Hunt, Give Me Back My Bullets, Saturday Night Special, you know, those are some songs that really get me going. Love it. All right, welcome back. It's Toker Talk Radio, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the news. Before I do, let me not forget to mention, after our 20 after break, our union mandated safety meeting, we will have a couple of commercials because we had to, got to pay bills. But after the couple of commercials, after the 20 after break, you will hear and see the entire speech by Representative Earl Blumenauer, my congressman, people, that's right. And you'll get to see his entire speech, my congressman. You get to see his entire speech. It was referred to in the Oregonian today by reporter Noel Crombie. They posted a 2-minute video. I got the whole speech. And this is a special speech, and not just because, oh my God, a U.S. congressman openly supports marijuana legalization. That's that, and I get to vote for him. Not just that. But the other reason this speech is so special is because Earl Blumenauer was sick that day. He was sick the day before. He was actually canceling things that he had to do on Friday, speeches and appearances he was going to do on Friday in Washington and wherever he was. I don't know if it was in Washington. But he was canceling appearances he was going to do on Friday so he would be able to do his appearance at the marijuana legalization march on Saturday. That's fantastic. This is a guy who prioritizes. He's not just for marijuana legalization. He's prioritizing it. He's making a centerpiece of his campaign and his politics. Now, he's as safe as a Democrat can get in a seat in Multnomah County, right? In the center of the arts districts and stuff. I don't even think he's got an opponent. I think he's running unopposed. He's been in the legislature been in the Congress since 96, right? Before that, he was an Oregon legislator. Going back to like 73, going back to the day when, Oregon became the first state to decrim, and he mentions that in his speech. So as you get to see this speech after our 420 break, and he's kind of coughing toward the end, not because he was doing rips with us or anything. Of course not. He doesn't even use pot. Doesn't even like it. It's not his thing. But the reason he was coughing there is because he was sick. He really put himself out to be there for us. And Herb Thrasher, our buddy Scott, was the MC for the whole event. He put it together with ICO and Oregon Normal and a bunch of other folks, and did a great job getting Representative Blumenauer there and putting him up at a great point in the speech. Just as everyone had come back from the march, there was lots of media there. We were there as well. We're going to give you the full speech right after the 420 break. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our news stories, some of the stories that were in the news today, because when I'm doing the news, I don't always get a chance to get in as much depth of it as I'd like to. But this Florida poll, oh my God, folks. Oh, wow. This is just, I don't know what makes me happier. I don't know what makes me happier about this. The Florida poll comes up. This is a Quinnipiac poll. Quinnipiac poll comes up and says there's 88% support for medical marijuana in Florida. 88% support for medical marijuana in Florida. Now, Florida needs 60% to pass its constitutional amendment, Question 2, this November that's on the ballot. Question 2 needs to get 60%, make Florida a medical marijuana state. Now, there's been a lot of medical marijuana states in the past 2-3 years, since 2010 actually, but they've not been home grow states, and Florida won't be either. But Florida may be one of the first medical marijuana states to start breaking medical marijuana out of the box canyon. See, medical marijuana since, about in the mid-2000s has just gotten more and more restrictive. They make it harder, for patients to qualify to get medical marijuana. They tighten up how much possession you're allowed to have. They don't let you have home grow. They strictly control dispensaries, etc. And the box canyon is basically this idea that if you fight for medical marijuana, you're going to get medical marijuana. And part of keeping it medical is to ensure people are only using it medically. And to make sure that it's all medical, you have to have somebody or something or some standard to tell the medical from the non-medical. That's a condition list, that's a doctor, that's a registry, etc. And no matter how you draw the line on what's medical, what's not medical, someone who's legitimately medical won't get medical marijuana. And someone who's definitely not legitimately medical will get medical marijuana. They'll find a way to cheat it. They'll find a way to get in, no matter where you draw the line. Some people who deserve it will be left out. Some people who are gaming the system will get in. So medical marijuana's got more and more restrictive as the years have gone on, but Florida here has come out with the standard condition list, 8 conditions, like cancer, AIDS, cachexia, glaucoma, spasms, seizures, pain, and nausea, the typical 8. But also have this clause that says, or any other condition for which a doctor believes the medical use of marijuana will outweigh the health risks. Something pretty close there. Wow. As loopholes go, that's a truck driving through sized loophole. Any condition a doctor believes medical use of marijuana would be less harmful than not, would outweigh its health risks. What illness doesn't qualify for that? Depression. Hell, if you're depressed, you could kill yourself. If you smoke marijuana, can't cause an overdose. Ding! Depression. Okay? So I'm pretty excited about this poll where 88% of the people support medical marijuana. The lowest support among Republicans is 80%. The lowest support among age groups, seniors, is 84%. Men and women are right neck and neck, 88 and 87%. Hispanics supported at 94%, with only 4% opposed. By the way, the Hispanic vote in Florida is huge. That's one you want to win. So even old people only, seniors only have 13% opposition. Seniors always vote, and that's a big demographic in Florida as well. So I don't know what I'm more excited about. Because when we pass medical marijuana in Florida, and all those snowbird seniors start flying north in the summertime when Miami and Boca and all these places get too hot, and they fly back to their mid-Atlantic home or their New England state home, and they learn that what they've got medical marijuana for down there in Florida won't count in their home state, that their card that they got in Florida, unless they're in Rhode Island, won't count in their home state, or I think Maine also, maybe Delaware. But most of them won't count in their home state. Some of their home states, medical marijuana won't even exist, like New York, Pennsylvania. And they're going to wonder, why can't I bring my medicine with me when I go back to my northern home? And then they're going to find, the politicians in those states are going to find that those seniors are pretty angry. And they want to be able to use their medicine when they travel, when they go from place to place. And that huge voting demo of Florida seniors with medical marijuana, I am so excited about. But I got to say also, I'm excited this is all going down in Kevin Sabet's backyard. That's great. I love it. Oh. All right. We got to take a break. Sorry, caller. You're calling in right at the 20 after break, and we have a union-mandated safety meeting we must get to. And following that, we got Representative Earl Blumenauer, his full speech at the Portland Global Cannabis March this weekend.
That funny reefer man, a reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man, a reefer man? If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the best way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
Marijuana, do you wanna? Mary, do you wanna tonight?
As marijuana goes mainstream, you need to be armed with the facts. Nobody can teach you better than Dr. Mitch Earlywine, Ph.D. You may know Dr. Mitch from his column in High Times magazine or his weekly appearance on The Russ Belville Show. Dr. Mitch is also the author of some of the best books on marijuana science, culture, history, and health, including Understanding Marijuana, Parents' Guide to Marijuana, Pot Politics, and more. Visit Amazon.com and search for Mitch Earlywine, that's EARLEYWINE, and order your books today. You can also contact Dr. Mitch by email at 420research@gmail.com. Drug Truth Network Cultural Baggage, replaying Wednesdays at 11 Pacific.
And let's pull it together. Well, I'm proud to say that our representative of the United States Congress has stood up for our rights and represented cannabis truthfully in the face of the drug war machine. So I want to thank Congressman Earl Blumenauer for coming out here today. It's my great pleasure to introduce him. Welcome, Congressman Earl Blumenauer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this afternoon. Oregon has led in innovation nationally. We protected our beaches, the bottle bill, land use. 40 years ago, Oregon was the first state to decriminalize marijuana. And I was an impressionable young legislator, actually voted on that legislation. And there was another debate that occurred during that session. It was led by a conservative Republican pig farmer from Hermiston, Oregon, a remarkable gentleman named Stafford Hansel, who had a distinguished career as a long-term state legislator. He was active in administration. He helped protect the land use system. But Stafford gave what I think was one of the most compelling speeches I've ever heard in my life. Here was a conservative Republican, didn't smoke, drink, swear, who got up and led the state legislature through a tutorial. He pointed out a package of cigarettes that killed 400,000 people a year that was legal. He had a bottle of Jack Daniels. I think it may have been the only time he'd ever held a bottle of liquor. And he pointed out that for some people, alcohol was toxic. and it contributed to the deaths of tens of thousands of people on a highway each year. And then he had a baggie with a marijuana cigarette. And he pointed out that people didn't die from it, that it wasn't as addictive, it wasn't as destructive, and that it was illegal. And he proceeded to defend a bill we had on the floor of the House that would have authorized 2 plants for personal consumption. I'm told by knowledgeable people at the Capitol at that time, if the 19 of us who voted for it had been joined by the people who voted no but smoked dope, that it probably would have passed, and Oregon would have been the first state to legalize adult use. At the same time, Oregon was having this discussion about a more rational approach to marijuana. We were watching at the federal level a war on drugs being launched in the Nixon administration. And it had a much different approach to marijuana. The legacy of that war on drugs was classifying marijuana as a Schedule I drug. The consequences of that are legion. First and foremost, as you know, classifying marijuana as being as dangerous as heroin or LSD is simply false. It's false. Telling people that it is more dangerous than cocaine or methamphetamines, Schedule II, the meth epidemic that is destroying rural and small town communities, suggests we've got our priorities upside down. It also suggests to me part of a need to reappraise what can only be described as a failed war on drugs. We're spending $25 billion a year. We are arresting 750,000 people a year for something that most Americans now think should be legal. And there are, as you're well aware, some of the most egregious racial disparities targeting young African American men greater than any other sector of the population, even though their use is no greater, maybe even a little less, than white young men. And there are people doing time now as a result of the consequences of this act. We've been involved in Congress in the effort to help rationalize our drug treatment, drug approaches. Part of it is to make sure that the federal government is not interfering in medical marijuana. Part of the lie in federal statute as a category, Schedule I narcotic, it has no medicinal therapeutic value. Not true. And luckily, voters starting in California in 1996 as the first state, followed by Oregon in the next election. We now have 21 states and the District of Columbia representing over 106 million Americans who have access that's legal under state law to medical marijuana. 1 million Americans now are legally authorized to have access, and I have heard countless stories about the difference that it has made in their lives. Part of what we're doing in Congress, and I will tell you, I'm encouraged because we now have 13 pieces of legislation, most of it bipartisan, to try and bring some sense into this upside-down world that is marijuana regulation in the United States. We have legislation and bipartisan support to stop the lunacy of making legal marijuana businesses be all cash enterprises. What's the logic here? If you care about money laundering, if you care about tax evasion, or just burglary, forcing perfectly legal enterprises to pay their taxes with a shopping bag full of $20 bills doesn't make any sense at all. Or because of a quirk in the tax law, forcing them to pay 2 and 3 times higher tax rates, again for perfectly legal businesses, is wrong. But I will tell you, some of you are familiar with a conservative Republican tax advocate, Grover Norquist. Grover was with me at a press conference for my bill to allow legal marijuana businesses to deduct their business expenses. That's how far we're coming. That's how far we're coming. Wednesday, on the floor of the House, I had an amendment that would have allowed our veterans to be able to talk to their VA doctors about marijuana. Why should our veterans be treated as second-class citizens in those states where medical marijuana is legal? Why should they not be able to talk to their primary doctor about whether it's right for them or wrong? We weren't successful, but we got 195 votes, including 24 Republicans who said, this doesn't make any sense. And I was told by one of my Republican co-sponsors of the legislation that he was convinced that there were 12 or 13 Republicans who, if they better understood it, would have voted with us. We're on the move in the United States Congress. We passed an amendment that allows research agriculture institutions to research industrial hemp, which passed with a significant yes vote. We now have a dozen states that are poised to allow industrial hemp production, and we have signals from the administration that these are part of the smaller fish that the administration's not going to fry, that we'll be able to proceed with this. And it's about time. Some of you have been involved with trying to promote not just the use of legal hemp products, which of course they are, and they're sustainable and they're beneficial. It's just that Oregon farmers and ranchers can't grow it. Kentucky tobacco farmers can't grow it. It's got to be imported from outside the United States. But we're turning the corner on that. We have to do a better job, I think, of breaking the stranglehold of this pernicious classification that prevents research into marijuana. Excuse me. Up on the Hill, I met with neurologists, people who are dealing with problems of our children. They talked about those with violent epilepsy. Getting all choked up here. These parents are willing to move their families to be able to have access to medical marijuana that will prevent these violent seizures. But the scientists cannot get marijuana to study what works and why. That's an outrage. Let me cut to the chase. Oregon was a leader 40 years ago in decriminalization. Oregon has a chance to be the explosion that breaks the dam on marijuana policy nationally. It's great what we have in Washington and Colorado. It's great that we've got 21 states in the District of Columbia with medical marijuana, but we're just on the cusp right now of changing national policy once and for all. It'll be great in Alaska if this summer they legalize adult use, but Alaska is sort of up there and out there. I don't think the land of the midnight sun and Sarah Palin is going to start a national trend. It's great that medical marijuana is on the ballot in Florida this year. 700,000 signatures. But given the Florida Constitution, it'll require a 60% less yes vote to pass, and that's questionable. Here in Oregon, we have an opportunity to cast a ballot for a rational marijuana policy that will be followed across the country. It'll open the floodgates in California in 2016, and we can get down to business. We can tax it, regulate it, keep it out of the hands of the kids, and stop interfering with people's lives. I'd ask you to study it, get involved, sign a petition, and spread the word so that we can have success this November. Oregon can do it. Thank you very much.
Congressman Blumenauer, everyone. Oh my goodness. It feels so good. What an Oregon privilege to have such a distinguished leader. You know, you guys elected him all the way back in 1996 to the House of Representatives, and he's been going ever since, championed so many causes on the Oregon level and the national level. You guys heard him right there. He's talking Oregon. He's ready to push Oregon as a leader of states. So exciting. Another point is you guys don't forget, speaking of voting, voting's coming up in November. And you guys are going to see Congressman Earl Blumenauer's name on the ballot. Even though you're not going to see an opponent, still mark his name. He is no blank candidate. He is an elected candidate, and we want to elect him ourselves and keep this going. Thank you, Congressman Blumenauer. What a privilege.
That's Herb Thrasher, of course, MC of our Global Cannabis March this Saturday, where Congressman Blumenauer spoke. Lots of people spoke, and I've got the entire playlist of my videos from the Global Cannabis March up at the YouTube site at radicalruss.com, or Radical Russ on YouTube. Also, you can go to 420radio.org. I did put a post up in the 420 Radio News. And if you don't know how to get to our show archives, it's pretty simple. Just look on the page for the big 420 Radio logo and click there. That'll get you to all of our programs, and you can see the 3 latest programs, or go all the way back through the archives as far back as you like to see any program you like. Just click on the 420 Radio logo in the left-hand side of the website, or you can get there by clicking shows up on the top toolbar. That'll get you there too. So I also wanted to make mention of what Representative Blumenauer had to say there, and that is that Oregon can be a leader in states, a leader in marijuana legalization. There was, as the legalization was happening in Washington and Colorado, and it was failing in Oregon, but as it succeeded in Washington and Colorado, one of the things that was happening in the campaign were people talking about setting a precedent. In particular in Washington state, they worried about passing this legalization that would set a precedent for no home grow. In Colorado, some of the worry was about setting a precedent for the high taxation of marijuana. And there was a lot of that going on in Washington state as well. So indeed, Oregon this time around does have an opportunity to be a leader and to set precedent in how marijuana will move forward. Before I get to Oregon, though, let's talk about international precedent. In the news today, I got to talk a bit about Uruguay releasing its rules for marijuana commerce, marijuana legalization, commercial marijuana. And everybody's excited, as well we should be, that an entire country came out and legalized. Now, it's already legal in a few countries like North Korea and I think Nepal, Bangladesh, places like that, where it's always just been a, part of their culture historically. But Uruguay is the first one, to come out and kind of say, yeah, we're going to legalize. But Jose Mujica, their president, had some pretty shocking things to say to the Associated Press, talking about addictions, and how basically this was a way to control cannabis users. So as internationally, as Uruguay unveils these rules, we have to be careful, because are these also setting a precedent? First of all, the government is in complete control of the marijuana trade. Okay. So they'll plant the plants. There is some home grow. You're allowed to grow 6 plants for personal use, but let me get to that later. As far as the commerce goes, the government will grow the plants, the government will harvest and process the plants, and the government will sell the plants. It's a seed to sale system, kind of emulating Colorado's system, right? But it's taking it to a whole new level that Colorado can't even touch. In fact, President Mujica said Colorado's legalization was a fiction and a hypocrisy because it didn't control as much as his does. Here's what their legalization in Uruguay will happen, right? They are going to plant 5 varieties, strains, if you will, although the technical term would be varieties, right? 5 different types of marijuana. That's it. What are they going to be? Well, I don't know. I don't think they know yet. I imagine maybe a sativa dominant, a hybrid, an indica dominant, something with a lot of CBD in it, high CBD ratio, and one other. Whatever, right? They're going to have to pick 5 varieties. 5 varieties of cannabis when how many are out there? I know I see these like fake periodical tables of strains, and that's got to be at least 100, right? So there's probably many more. And as lots of patients can tell you, finding the exact right strain can be kind of difficult, right? Well, it's going to be a little more difficult in Uruguay because there'll be 5 of them. You can try all 5 if you like. Now, these 5 varieties of cannabis will be the official government cannabis. They are going to genetically track this, folks. They're going to look at the DNA of their 5 varieties and map out the genome. And when they sell one of these 5 varieties of government encoded database tracked weed, they're going to be sold in a bag with an RFID tag, radio frequency ID, right? Those kind of things that can be detected by little scanners and stuff, right? So really anybody with an RFID scanner could walk around town and know who's holding bags of weed, which makes it a whole lot easier if you're like a criminal looking to mug someone. But anyway, I digress. So they're going to sell in these RFID tagged bags, right? And if you got marijuana and it's not in an RFID tagged bag, they will seize that marijuana and they will test it genetically, to make sure that it's one of the 5 varieties. Oh, I'm afraid this isn't crippled rhino. And it's not skunk number 1, and it's not super silver haze, and it's not blueberry, and it's not OG Kush. Let's say those are the 5. It's not one of those 5. So guess what it is, folks? It's an illegal drug. It's just as illegal as it's always been in Uruguay if it's not one of the 5 government strains, varieties. So you don't have your RFID tagged bag, and you don't have your genetically matching cannabis. You're just a drug criminal, just like you always were. You're still subject to criminal penalties. So maybe you're thinking, all right, well, still I could get by on, if it's one of the 5 strains I like, that'll work. But keep in mind that they'll be capped at 15% THC. 15% THC. That's it. 15%. That's the most you're going to get. It's not bad. 15% is all right. But some strains are now approaching twice that in THC potency. And if you want to go buy some of that weed in Uruguay, and this is, of course, assuming you're a citizen, because only citizens can do it. You can't fly to Uruguay and just be an adult. No. You have to be Uruguayan. So, if you're a citizen and you want to go buy some of that weed, you can't just go to the government weed store and buy some of that weed. Oh, no. See, they're tracking how much weed people are buying, because they're only allowed to buy 10 grams a week. Now, the only way to be able to track whether a particular person is buying 10 grams a week is, of course, to have that person registered in a database. That's right. If you want to be an adult legal marijuana consumer consuming one of the 5 less than 15% THC strains at 10 grams per week or less, you have to register with the government. And not just register with the government, you got to give the government your fingerprints. Just so you can smoke one of those 5 strains, right? That you bought legally. Now, when you go buy your strains, it is anonymous in that the clerk there getting you the weed doesn't know who you are technically. But you got to do your little thumbprint, a little thumbprint reader when you're going to get your 10 grams per week. So that can be entered in the government database to make sure that you're not going to the next store and getting another 10 grams. So they're really going to control it to 10 grams a week. This ain't no Colorado where, you're limited as a tourist to a quarter ounce purchase per store, right? These stores aren't communicating with each other to find out whether you went and bought another quarter ounce at the next place, another quarter ounce at the next place, right? That's not coordinated. In Uruguay, it will be. Government-run stores, fingerprint verification, 10 grams a week. Now, you are allowed to grow your own plants, but it's got to be one of the clones of one of the 5 strains. So you can't grow your own particular strain. Again, has to be government pot. And again, since you're growing it for your own personal use at your home and harvesting there and using it at your home, you don't have any RFID tagged bags to put it in if you wish to take it away from your home. Because why would you be taking it away from your home if it's for your own personal private use? I suppose somebody could get an RFID tagged bag from a purchase at a store and save the bag and then use that with their own personal weed. I don't know if their RFID tagging is going to be sophisticated enough to say this RFID tag was sold at this store on this particular day, because if it did, then possessing that same bag a year later and still trying to claim it's the 10 grams you bought at the store might be a little hard to fly. But I don't know. I'm speculating at this point. I have no idea. Be nice to find out a little bit more of this. So yeah, you're going to grow your 6 plants at home, and again, that's 6 plants per household. You don't get 6 and your roommate gets 6. No, 6 plants for the whole household. Of the clones of the 5 government registered varieties that are less than 15% THC. But I don't know how you're going to take it out of your house. But on the bright side, if you go to the government store and buy the government weed that's less than 15% THC of one of 5 strains at 10 grams a week, it will only cost you $1 a gram. So, there's a bright side. Something to think about when we're talking about legalization. What precedent will be set? Will the world continue along with the Uruguayan model of strict biometric controls at both the plant and personal level? Or will things go Oregon's way? One of two Oregon ways. We'll tell you about both of them when we come back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
I'll say, little red carpet, darling, your mud's too fast. Little red carpet, you need a lover that's gonna lay.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with the Ustream video app for Android and iPhone. Go to rad-r.us/420Ustream or just click the Ustream app icon for Android or iPhone below the live radio feed at 420.
Everybody, 53 after the hour. That's Can't Stop the Daggers with High. And I wanted to talk a second about bigotry. Where are my white people at? We're right here, Russ. Talk to us. Yes, my white people, especially my white males. If you're a white male cannabis smoker, oftentimes you don't get to experience bigotry, right? You don't get to experience outright bigotry. Unless, of course, you're like, hippie, long hair, tattoo sleeves, whatever piercings that might cause the mainstream to look twice at you. You don't really get the feeling of bigotry. I know I didn't. Until I was on the side of the road in Utah, pulled over for no good reason whatsoever, except for the fact that the cops profiled out-of-state plates and a guy with long red dreadlocks. And that's when I started to feel the bigotry of it all. There's no good reason for harassing us marijuana consumers other than bigotry. And that's just simply what it is. And as I went rounds today with Christine Tatum, because she's on the Twitter, that's what we call it. And her responses, they're always so dismissive and they're always so condescending that it just reveals bigotry, just simple bigotry. One of them was something about, Radical Russ, that's somebody to talk about impairment. As if, I can't read studies, as if I haven't interviewed some of the most knowledgeable people on this subject, even anti-marijuana people that know a whole lot about impairment. But no, because I'm a pothead, because I'm a stoner, automatically I can be dismissed with a chuckle. A dismissive, condescending wave of the hand. Obviously, of course, I challenged her to any test she'd like. Jenga, Jeopardy, Trivial Pursuit, Operation, tests of skill, hand-eye coordination, and intelligence. I would smash her in any one of them. And she joked back, how about arm wrestling? Yeah, I'd win that one too. She's the kind of person who makes these claims, right? She'll come out with a stat on Twitter. She'll say some stat about weed, how bad it is. And then somebody will question her on it. Say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. What's your citation on that? And I'm not talking about me, necessarily, but, just people watching the Twitter stream who maybe don't have an axe to grind one way or the other. It's like, well, what's your citation on that? Where did you get that from? And she'll respond, I don't have the time to do all your research for you. You need to go look it up. You're the one that's her gig, man. She'll pull out a stat. And then when you ask her to cite where she got it from, you're the stoner. You're the person who needs to look it up. You're the loser who doesn't know anything. So she's that kind of person. And this fight over piss testing, let's just call it what it is. It's not drug testing. It's piss testing. This fight over piss testing and people who are legal cannabis consumers now, who have a constitutional right to consume cannabis in Colorado, being discriminated against is no different than the no Irish need apply signs at the turn of the last century. There's no legitimate reason why businesses shouldn't hire Irish people or gay people or Catholic people. There's no reason why legitimately there should be separate water fountains with people of darker colored skin. And there is no reason why cannabis consumers need to be discriminated against for the metabolites in their pee. Now, I am even a reasonable person as much as I abhor drug testing, and I think of it as judging people by the content of their urine rather than the content of their character. As abhorrent as I think it is, even I can exceed a little. I can give a little on the issue. If we're talking about someone who works in a safety-sensitive position, dangerous work, who had an accident, there's actual cause here, or almost had an accident, there's cause to believe they might be impaired. And we test them, and we find a level of impairing drugs in the system, even if it's cannabis, that's been determined scientifically to show, beyond a preponderance of the benefit of a doubt, that is a level that would be impairing that person, then I would conclude, I'd say, okay, that kind of drug testing's okay. But this random, suspicionless, at will to get a job discrimination against cannabis consumers, especially now in Colorado and Washington State, where that is a legal activity, cannot be tolerated. Drug testing just doesn't work, folks. And it doesn't even matter if we're talking about cannabis or other drugs that are more impairing and addicting. It doesn't work. It's a lousy predictor of impairment, a lousy predictor of employee performance. And if you have to rely on that to pick out somebody who's high on the job, you're a lousy manager. God, I could go for longer, but that's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. Replay of the Viper Hour is next. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you